If you had faith, it's something that Jesus said to his disciples in yesterday's gospel reading. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed. Well, that saying appears in a couple of different gospels. And, mustard seeds are not very large at all. And I think it's interesting that Jesus didn't say, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mustard tree, bush, that you could be moved. He said that about the mulberry tree. So he's comparing a mulberry tree with the size of a mustard seed. It's kind of like two different plants, and the size of their seeds are different too. And I would imagine probably the root systems, because Jesus said you could tell the if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could tell the mulberry tree to be moved into the sea. Ever talk to trees? Okay, so, but Jesus wasn't talking to trees. He was talking to people. He was talking to his disciples. They had actually physically moved in order to follow Jesus. So that got me to thinking about us. So this is really comparison of faith, right? It's not about the size of things. It's a comparison about faith. And the disciples compared their own faith to Jesus, and they wanted Jesus to increase their faith, right? And he says, you don't need to have a lot of faith. If you had even just a little bit, there are things that you could say and would happen. And I think about that verse in comparison to our own attitudes. Okay, so yesterday was a lot about forgiveness, and as well as, being moved. And that's important, because you might have a really big hurt. Like, have you ever had something stuck between your teeth and it really hurts? And once you get it out, you see how small it was? And you wonder, how can something so small hurt so bad? Or a sliver in your hand or toe, or a thistle. And they're such tiny little things, and they cause such huge pain. And in our lives, we never know. First of all, I want to talk about We think we're doing a little thing when we say something or do something, when we tease or talk negatively, or, you know, the power of words. We think that our words maybe don't do as much harm as we think they do. When they come out of our mouths, we say something and it stings, it hurts. And think about how we cope with that. So if a thistle or a sliver or a little tiny thing gets stuck in your teeth, or a seed, my ENT told me, a seed as small as a poppy seed, or little, those are pretty small, seasonings. They can get stuck in your salivary gland or in your sinus. And if not ever removed, can turn into a huge infection. Same is true for a sliver or maybe a little tiny shard of glass. I stepped on broken glass once and it's still stuck in my foot and we can't get it out. It hurts sometimes because I waited too long. It didn't get a wart, but it's stuck in there, and I really don't want anyone to do a lot of cutting in my feet, so I'm not going to have that done. But so a word that cuts into your mind or your heart that somebody spoke, so tiny, maybe a long time ago, and the roots of the negativity of that have spread all through your mind down into your heart. And it keeps growing. And it keeps creating problems in your life. And Jesus says, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could tell that thing, those words, to be moved. And they would be. So what would that word be that we could speak to the pain? We would say be healed. But if it's not removed, it may fester up again. It's hard to remove words that have been spoken in our minds. We can ask the Lord to help remove it. Psychologists tell you it takes 13 positive statements to overcome one negative statement. And the disciples asked Jesus, if I forgive my brother and he keeps sinning against me, so this could also be your sister, your father, your mother, your neighbor, whoever. And they keep saying that word over and over and over again. How many times do I have to forgive them? And Jesus says 70 times 7. That's not literal. You don't take a piece of paper and write a little scratch mark every time. It means eternally. It means every time. But he also has instructions for people who know that something somebody says or does hurts them. And those instructions are that you're supposed to be courageous enough to go and tell that person lovingly. And then it's in their hands. And hopefully they would be kind enough and loving enough that they would try very difficult, very not difficult, that they would try with great integrity to not say or do those things against you ever again. Very often in this world, people's response is, well, just suck it up. That's not what I meant. You're such a wuss. Don't be so sensitive. You know, that shows hardness of heart on their part. At least you've done your part. So you forgive them. And then you pray for them. And you pray that the Lord will soften their heart, soften their mind, and teach them. And give them a gift of humility and a spirit of love, so that they realize that they need to take more care with the things they say and do sometimes. You don't greet somebody and say, hi, you're so, you know, that's just not quite the right way. And so that's what I had to say about the mustard seed and faith today. I have all sorts of more thoughts about it, and I may get on later and share some of those, but that's what I'm sharing today. So, you know, forgiving the other person, but also telling them to please not say or do that again. That's important. And to ask God to heal you. And then also, one thing I learned how to do at one point in time was to just ignore the negative, nasty things that some people were saying to me directly. And so I just talk right over it. Pretend you don't hear it. If you hear it, it might be because the Lord wants you to hear it so that you can say to that person, be moved. Be moved in heart and soul and mind to stop saying or doing those things. So pray about it, think about it, be encouraged, and do it. Speak up for yourself, for God's sake. Jesus Christ understands the pain of having insults hurled at you. They were hurled at him too. God bless you. Have a great day.